again for another wonderful episode of My Baby Experts. I am your host, Shari Criso, and I am so excited to be with you one more time. So let's talk a little bit about our topic tonight. This has been a topic that everybody's been asking for quite a while, and our topic tonight is baby wearing. So carrying your baby in a sling or a carrier and wearing your baby. And I just love this topic because it was something that I personally did. I worked with my children. They were with me when I had my first daughter almost 10 years ago. She's going to be 10 in January. I had a medical practice, and she was at the practice with me. And in between patients, I would put her in my sling, and I would walk around with her. And then we started the store, and I carried her around. And same with my oldest. I think I even have a picture of, do I have a pic? No, that's not it. Let's see. Where did I go? Where is it? Oh, there it is, right there. There's a picture. This is a picture of me with Jade. Okay, Jade, that's a picture. She's almost 10 years old, and that's in my first original store of me carrying Jade in a sling. And I just, it was so fantastic. I could nurse her in it, and I could wear her, and she just loved being with me. And it was just great. So I'm a huge fan of baby wearing, and I think there's so many benefits that we're going to go through tonight, and so many advantages to wearing your baby. Let's talk a little bit about baby wearing now, okay? And there were so many questions that came in that, I want to try to get to as much of that as I can, as well as a lot of the content. Throughout history, we have been wearing our babies. If you think about it, human beings are a carrying species, okay? They're all different kinds of animals. They do different things. Some animals, they follow, like horses, where they walk and they follow behind. Some animals are nesting species, where like birds that sit in a nest. Humans are carrying species, and what that means is that through Mother Nature, from the beginning of time, the way we were meant to be with our babies was to carry them. And their bodies are actually designed for this, perfectly designed for this. It is actually in their best, it is for their best development that we continue to carry them after they're born. And so wearing a carrier just makes that process just so much easier, so much easier. A toddler's spine is the shape of an S, okay? And so not yet. Toddler spine is the shape of an S, and that's because they're starting to walk. The shape of their spine is shaped to be able to stand upright and to walk. An infant, a newborn spine is C-shaped is C-shaped, and that means that they're meant to be curled up in more of a fetal position. In fact, their spines are curled, and you can show the picture now, Taylor. I have some images for you to see tonight because I thought this was really, really good. Yep. Okay, see how the baby's got a C shape to their spine? Yes, because what they do is, they're in that fetal position, and then what happens is they also bring their legs up. So it's their bodies are curved, and their knees are bent up, and their hips are out, okay? This is the perfect position for carrying. And so carrying is the way that, we've been conditioned and our bodies have developed to be used. And if you look at a baby, look at this mom right here, she's carrying her baby, and you see how the baby is curved inwards, okay? The arms are coming in, the legs are abducted, that means they're out, okay? And they're flexed, and that means that their hips are flexed into a 90-degree angle. This is extremely important for their development, and we're going to get into this a little bit later. But throughout history, this is the way that we have been meant to do this, okay? It's no coincidence that they love to be carried, okay? And if you think about it, how many of your babies, when you put them down flat into a bed, they hate it. They hate laying flat. And yet we do this, and then we expect our babies to be comfortable. Most babies are not comfortable in this position, but rather up on our chest, sleeping in a position that's more of the fetal position. They've all come from the womb, and this is the comfortable position and what they were used to being in, okay? Actually, a lot of people have asked me questions about whether or not keeping their hips open or that abduction of the hips actually causes problems with their hips. And the truth is that that's actually the correct position to have the baby's hips in. There's something called congenital hip dysplasia, and that's where the bone, the joint of the hip is not formed properly. And the cure for this is actually to put them in a cast or a harness that keeps the legs open. This is especially great with cloth diapers, and I get this question all the time, and we're not going to get too much into cloth diapering tonight, but you know, when we look at cloth diapers and how they're a little bit bulkier, moms and dads always come in and ask me, you know, oh, is this going to be a problem? They're so bulky, their legs are open. I'm like, no, that's actually proper, and that's actually better for their hip development. Babies' legs are supposed to be like that. In fact, what we've seen is that when babies' legs are put together, okay, like for example, in the American Indians, when they've used papooses, where the legs were tied together, where the legs were not allowed to be bent up or at that angle, what we saw were more hip dislocations and hip dysplasias. So it's very important that the baby's legs are allowed to have freedom. You really want to keep this in mind when you're swaddling your infant, okay, especially because when you're swaddling, and I have a picture here of a baby swaddling, okay, the swaddling is more for the feeling of being swaddled up at the top, okay, where the baby's arms are swaddled either up close to the face or down in if the baby's busting out. But what you don't want to do is constrict the legs in any way, okay? So constricting the legs will actually not allow the baby to bring the knees up and to bring the legs out. Okay, so legs need lots of room to be able to move, and their natural position will be to raise them up in that position. Okay, perfect. Did you guys know that? Yeah. Oh my God, you're learning. She says, I'm learning here. Good, we're learning. I love learning. Okay, awesome. So, let's see. Do we have any questions I can go over? Let's do some questions here. Who's got a good question? Let's see. Okay, I have a question from... okay, this was from Stacy in Iowa, okay, and Stacy said, how can you breastfeed with a soft structure carrier? I was able to do it in my ring sling, but I didn't have a wrap or soft structure with my previous babies to try it out. I'm on the smaller side. You know, with the new Boba carrier, what's wonderful, and I actually have one right here, is there's actually so many different adjustments, so it allows you to adjust and open different sides. The baby can actually slide down to the breast and be able to nurse. You can nurse in both the wrap and the carrier, and so I love this carrier because you can actually do that. Now, not everybody is going to have the what do I say, perfect anatomy for nursing in a carrier, you know, and some people with much larger breasts do have a harder time. It's just what I see. If your breasts are smaller, sometimes it's easier. Anybody in the chat rooms, yeah, big boobs can't do it either. That's another way to say it, right? There you go. That's my audience, right? Yeah, you know, sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder. You're going to have to find it for yourself. And then also what I wanted to say was, if it's not working initially with a newborn, don't give up, okay? You know, keep trying, because as the baby gets a little bit older, they find the breast. Believe me, no matter what, they find the breast. They don't care what position they're in. Sometimes sliding them down to be in a little bit of a lower position works, and you have all that adjustment flexibility with both carriers, and I think that you can do it with both. So it's great. Yeah, you can nurse with them, and that's one of the best things about a carrier, is the baby is close to your skin, especially with both these carriers. Unlike some of the other ones on the market, these carriers actually don't have any fabric, and this is what you want to, you know, avoid. There's no fabric between you and the baby. You want your baby up against your skin, okay? This is one of the advantages of these carriers, is that you're going to get that skin-to-skin contact, okay? And I highly recommend, you know, even in the hospital or when you come home from the hospital with a newborn, what I would like, you know, what I love to tell people to do is take off your shirt and just strip your baby down into a diaper and put the baby into the Boba wrap. Excuse me. Put the baby into the Boba wrap and just wear the baby right up against your skin, okay? That's the skin to skin. You can let go. The baby's comfortable. You could do this in the hospital, and this is going to really facilitate nursing as well. I need a drink of water.
Some people mentioned topless with their carrier.
They're what?
They did topless with their carrier.
Topless with your carrier, absolutely. And honestly, with the Boba wrap, When you put it on the front, it looks like a t-shirt. Like it literally covers every part of you. You put a little sweatshirt on the back, you cannot see anything. And your baby's just on your body, skin to skin, where it's supposed to be. So I think they're great, and I would take it to the hospital with you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about all the benefits of wearing your baby, okay? Mainly, first benefit is that because they're so comfortable and because they love to be held like this, the studies show that they feel more secure and they're going to cry less, okay? So if you're wearing your baby, you're going to have less crying. And most of you that do wear your baby notice this, is that when you go to put your baby down, they cry. Even the ones who are not wearing the babies are going, when I put my baby down, the baby cries. When I pick my baby up, the baby stops crying. Think about this, okay? Think about primitive cultures, okay? Let's take a look at this for a second. In primitive cultures, okay, what we saw were people wore their babies, okay, and they wear their babies all the time. And take a look at the way this baby is shaped here too. They're sitting, okay. There's this baby's sitting on the mom's back, and the baby's spine is in a C-shaped, and their knees are bent into a 90-degree angle. So this, again, with a primitive child or primitive cultures, they don't have this crying colic stuff that we see in our societies, because we have been taught to put our babies into an infant carrier, car seat, a stroller, a bouncy seat, and then to a bassinet and a swing, and never hold our babies. And this is not how it was meant to be. So of course our babies are going to cry more when they're not being held. This is not a sign of spoiling them, okay? Studies do show that they do feel more secure when they're held by their parents, okay? They have better temperature regulation. These are all benefits to wearing your baby, okay? Babies also that are carried in a sling have better visual stimulation. This is important. Think about it. When the baby is carried upright in a sling or a carrier, they're up at eye level. They can see everything. They can interact with the environment. When they're down in an infant carrier like a car seat, they're staring at the ceiling. Okay, they're staring at, they can't see anything. Nobody can interact with them. So it's very important that they can actually see what's going on and that they are visually stimulated, okay? It's also going to help them socially with their social stimulation, okay, when people can actually interact with them and they can interact back. This is important also to keep in mind that I don't recommend, and most don't recommend, the forward-facing carriers. And the reason for that is sometimes, you know, the social stimulation is great, but that forward-facing carrier, beyond just some of the other things about their spines and the way that they hang that we'll talk about later, there can be some overstimulation in a baby facing outward, okay? Babies are meant to be carried with their facing inward, and that way they can interact with other people, but when they need to turn away from it and not be too overstimulated, they can turn into the mother's chest and hide their face. That helps to add to their security, okay? And so carrying your baby forward facing, I mean, is really not the way to go. You want to carry baby inward, okay, or on your back. What we have seen also is with all the use of so many infant car seats, and listen, what I'm not saying is don't ever put your baby in a car seat. I did it, putting your baby in a car seat, obviously, in the freezing cold, taking them in and out sometimes from the car when it's cold out here on the East Coast, you know, using your stroller once in a while. But we've become the society of, you know, we all always use strollers rather than carrying, and I can see it daily, you know, walking into my store. They're either coming in their car seats or in their strollers. It's not very frequent that I would have people coming in wearing their baby. So we got into this habit, or it's what we've been told to do, or it's the norm, it's what we see on TV, it's what we see other people doing, to push our babies around or put them in car seats rather than carrying them. What we're seeing now is that they have delayed motor skills, okay? They're delayed. The babies that are not carried, are not held upright, who are sitting in carriers, are not able to move around as quickly. They're slower to roll over. They're slower to sit. They're slower to crawl. They're slower to walk and run later, okay? These are all different things that we have seen. They don't get a chance to exercise their anti-gravity muscles, and what that means is keeping themselves upright. You know, all the muscles that are used to in the back, in the arms, in the head, keeping the head up, okay? Laying back all the time is not going to help them to develop those muscles, and so they do have motor development delays, okay? And then on top of that, one of the things, and here I'll show you what a baby looks like in a car seat, just so that you can get, and you all know what a baby looks like in a car seat, but take a look at that. You see, now when a baby spends too much time like that, what's happening is the baby is really, you know, never really exercising those muscles. See how they're laying flat there? Yeah. And so it's important that the baby is not spending all their time in this type of a carrier or a swing. Perfect. Let's go back here. Okay, we got a lot of visuals tonight. Tonight's a teaching class. Decided to do a teaching class. It was just me tonight. You got lots of times we do these shows and we are doing we have experts. We have lots of guest experts. For anybody who's new, you'll see as the weeks go on, I bring on some of the best people in the industry, the top experts. Tonight it's me, and I decided we're going to do a little lesson tonight, just the way we do in my classes, right? We'll do a lesson, and I love using visuals because being able to see what we're talking about is really important. Another very, very important thing to remember is that, you know, babies now, because of the whole concept of laying flat on their backs, have developed a lot of what we call flat head syndrome or plagiocephaly. Okay, that's the technical term for it. And this flat head syndrome comes from babies laying flat on a crib, and we tell, and this is really, you know, with pediatricians, it's almost like they've created the problem and then they fix the problem, okay, by recommending that we don't sleep with our babies, that we put them in the car seats, that we sleep them on a flat mattress that's as hard as a rock, and sleep them on their backs, and then their heads become flat, okay, and here's a picture demonstrating what plagiocephaly does look like, or flat head, okay. On the left-hand side, you could see what a child looks like with the head flattened, okay, and then after that, what happens is they can wear these helmets, and this baby here had a helmet used to be able to correct the issue cosmetically, okay, so there's both not only a cosmetic issue, yes, go ahead. Not only a cosmetic issue, and this is what I really want you to be aware of, that, you know, beyond just the cosmetic issue, it does not, you can fix that with the helmet, but it does not address the motor development issues that these babies will face. So, you know, it's really, you've got to be aware of this, and like I said, everything in moderation, so that you really start to, the whole reason for tonight's conversation is to understand that there needs to be moderation. You know, if your baby's sitting in a seat all the time, that's no good. If you need to put your baby down sometimes and you're feeling like you can't, that's no good. Okay, there's somewhere in between, and we want to make this a happy time for you and for your child. But you have to understand that doing all of one thing can really lead to issues, especially here. You know, with all the bouncy seats and all those things, you really got to be careful. The other thing, too, is from them laying flat, they're more susceptible to inner ear infections, as well as, you know, reflux issues that we've seen so much of, you know, and so much of the reflux that comes in, I really think so much of it is just a perceived reflux. I really don't believe in all this reflux that's going on, and I believe that a lot of it has to do with laying our babies flat after eating, you know, not burping well enough. We talked about this in a prior episode of Calming Your Fussy Baby. Who liked that episode where I talked about burping and calming and swaddling? Yeah, that was a really good episode, right? Yeah, that was a good one. Go back and watch that episode, because I talked a lot about this whole idea of reflux and how much of it we see, and how interesting it is then as soon as they approved the drug, the Zantac for infants, that we started to see more reflux pop up in infants. What do you know? Okay, why don't you keep your baby upright a little bit more instead of laying down, feed a little bit less at a feeding, stop overfeeding the baby, and burp a little bit more. Go back and watch my burping techniques if your baby's not burping well for you. So let's do some more questions here, huh? Do a couple more questions. All right, let's see. Here's a question from Lara in Alabama. Lara Lee 513. Okay, let's see. She's saying, I am large-chested, and I found many carriers to do two things. One, make my lower back hurt from how the weight is distributed, and two, hurt my neck and shoulders where the weight pulls on me. Is there one that doesn't do that? Funny that you should ask that question, Lara. Okay, so here's the deal. Most carriers on the market, or many of the carriers in the market, will hang from your shoulders and neck, and as your child gets bigger, what's going to happen is you're going to feel the weight pulling, okay? It's pulling on your neck and shoulders. This is not good for your baby. This is also not good for you, okay, to carry that kind of weight. What's different about the Boba carrier is that the weight, as you can see, there's a belt right here, and the belt actually carries all the weight on your hips. So what you're looking for is a carrier where they're actually sitting on your hips rather than hanging from your shoulders. That's going to make a big difference. The other thing is, if you are large-chested, you want one that has a lot of adjustment straps, and this one does too. It adjusts in the back to adjust the width of your back, it adjusts in the front, it adjusts on the sides. So you've got a lot of adjustment, and including the waist, in order to accommodate for a larger chest. And it really makes it so that it's not pulling on you. I have people who come in, they'll wear these carriers in, and I can see they're really struggling into the store, and I'll say, try this on for a minute, and we'll switch them into one of these carriers, and they're like, oh my God, I can't even feel the weight. I mean, literally, you can carry up to a 45-pound child with this carrier and really not feel their weight very much. It's almost like giving them a piggyback ride. That's because the weight is sitting on your hips, and they are more in an ergonomic position. So I hope that answered your question. Let's see if we have any other questions here. We have a lot of questions here. Okay, here's a question. Betty from New York is asking, I'm sure you'll cover this, and I was going to cover this in a little while, but I'll answer your question now. I'm sure you'll cover this, but how old is too old to carry your baby? Well, the answer is when your baby stops wanting to be carried is really too old. Here's the thing. You know, I just laugh because, you know, my children hit 3 years old, and it was like, oh, yeah, I talk to people all the time, and they're like, well, I'm not going to carry them at that point. I'm like, oh, you'll carry them when they want to be carried. When they get tired and they want to be held and they want to be carried, you carry them. I've got a 7-year-old at home who's actually pretty small, okay, but there are many times where she's fallen asleep on the couch and I'm carrying her, okay? So you know they're getting big though when their feet start to kick you in the shins, and I'm like, oh, she's light but she's long, okay? So yes, you know, I think that you're looking at least 2 years old, possibly 3 years old, that you may be still carrying. And it depends on the carrier that you purchase. Something like this, my children were definitely not 45 pounds at 3 years. They could have still been carried in this carrier, and comfortably so. So I don't know if there's actually an age when they should stop being carried. I guess when they're like in school. At that point, you should probably be talking to them about not being carried, but they do get tired, and many people still carry them, even if it's on their back. You'll see dads carrying children on their backs. They don't have to push a stroller. We used to take our carrier to, I remember being in Disney World one time. Remember that, Joe? We were in Disney, and we had Jade, who was 3, and Talia, who was about 6 months old, and I had brought my carrier with me for the baby. And they make you park your strollers outside of the rides, so you can't bring your stroller into the line. And the lines were super long, and we're standing on line, and I got my carrier, and I'm holding the 6-month-old, and Jade, my 3-year-old, is complaining, her feet hurt, and there she's tired, and Daddy, carry me, and he's looking at me going, oh my God, I'm going to carry her, she's so heavy. I said, put her in the sling. And he was like, are you crazy? I said, no, put her in the sling. So you put her in the hip sling, and look, it worked, you know, so you never know when this opportunity is going to come up, and it was fantastic. He carried her in the sling, I carried the baby, and it worked for us. I see Joe in the chat room going nuts. Nuts, but it worked, right?
No, I said I had to grow 3 extra arms that trip. It's no longer vacation, it's a trip.
Oh, yeah. We don't call it vacation when we're traveling with our babies. We call it traveling. Traveling. It sets up less disappointment when you don't call it vacation. It is traveling at that point, okay? Okay, let's get back onto it here. All right, so let's talk about, let's see, let's talk about some of the other, one of the other things that I wanted to say is that when we were talking about the flathead before, there's something I didn't mention that I really want you to understand, that in the last 10 to 15 years, we have seen a 600% increase in flathead. Okay, this is huge. A 600% increase in this flathead syndrome, and that really has come from what we've been doing with our children. Okay, so you really got to be careful there. I forgot to tell you that, and I really wanted to mention that. Let's talk about the different types of carriers on the market. Okay. Different types of carriers. There are the ring slings or the baby slings, and let's go back to that picture of me over there and I'll show you what that looks like. There we go. Okay, that's the sling that goes over one shoulder where you can carry an infant. And one of the questions that did come in was, when you're carrying a baby in this position with one of these kind of carriers, how do you make sure that it's safe? You got to make sure that their head is up high in the sling, up close to your shoulder, not low down. The baby needs to be carried up high, okay? And that brings up another point. A couple months ago, and there were, I think it was back in March, there were some recalls on slings. There were 2 slings on the market that were recalled because of suffocation in infants, and everybody went crazy, and oh, we shouldn't have slings anymore, and be careful, the slings, they're dangerous, which was not true. And unfortunately, these 2 slings, one was the I think it was the Infantissimo, and one was from the Wendy Bellissimo. These slings and carriers should have never been on the market to begin with, and anyone who knew what they were talking about making slings or carriers knew that these were not safe. And what happened was, these were carriers that the baby was laying down low, okay, where the mom could not see the baby's face, and the baby was curled up in a position where they became asphyxiated. They couldn't breathe, okay? The baby needs to be in an upright position. And so even in a ring sling, that's okay, but you need to be able to have the baby's head up high where you can see the baby's face, you can watch your baby, and the baby's not curled down on top of themselves, okay? So it's really the Infantino. Okay, thank you. I have the best audience. They tell me exactly. Infantino, right? And these carriers were all recalled, okay, and they should have never been brought to market to begin with, but they were recalled, and unfortunately some babies did die in these slings, okay. That would never happen in the carriers that we're talking about today, like in the Boba wrap, because your baby is in an upright position. There are other carriers, and I'm going to show you one because you're all going to laugh. This is with my dog Lucky, okay. Take a look at this picture. This was in the airport in Colorado. This was when Lucky was a puppy. Yeah, it was that's my fur baby, okay? He loved it so much. He was in that carrier. Have you asked anybody else use a carrier for their dog, or am I the only kook on the show? You should have seen the looks that we were getting in the airport. It was so funny. I had the dog in the sling, and I had Taylor and Joe following behind me. People were like, "Who is that woman?" It looked like Cruella de Vil walking around with the dog in the sling. It wasn't a Dalmatian, but he's a little Maltese. Somebody was asking what kind of dog he is. He's a little Maltese. It was extremely funny, but it worked, And I thought, well, I'm into baby wearing. He's my baby, and I'm going to wear him. But those are nice carriers, too. Those are cute. Cruella.
Not the only person. Her weenie dog loved it.
Oh, it's funny, but I think that I think that it was a kind of an interesting situation for us.
Put him in a little Joey's.
Oh right, we also put him in a little Joey. We went out. That was the trip. We went out to see Julie from Rumperoos when we filmed the DVD program in Colorado. So poor Lucky, he walked around in a carrier, and then when we got to the Rumperoos location, we put him in a little Joey cloth diaper, and we have pictures of him in the little Joey. We got to find those pictures. Yeah. We'll put that up for the next episode. Poor dog. He's so good. He's so happy. Trust me, that dog is so spoiled. All right, so those are the slings, okay? What some of the advantages of slings like that is that they're great for newborns, they're easy to cradle, they're easy to nurse in, okay? They're really easy to get on and off, but sometimes the support is difficult because it's just on one side, not distributed on both sides. That can be a little bit more difficult as the baby starts to get older. And it can also be used as for a toddler, like I was talking about with my 3-year-old, of carrying them on your hip, okay? Then we have the wraps, and let's go back to the picture of the wrap here. That's the Boba wrap here, okay? And the wraps, okay, some of the advantages of a wrap, you can use them right from infancy. That's fantastic. The weight is distributed across the back, and the baby feels lighter because of this. The baby, you know, you can feel it on both shoulders. It's not pulling you to one side. It's comfortable because it crisscrosses and offers a symmetric support to the body. It offers a one-size-fits-all. It's like, by nature, it's just one-size-fits-all. So depending on your body, it's going to fit you, and that means that dads can wear it too. And this is great, you know, especially like babies that are in the NICU, where you want to do skin-to-skin kangaroo care with these wraps. Fantastic for that, and dads really love it as well. And they're also easy to nurse, and they're simple and discreet for nursing. So that's a fantastic, and congratulations to our winner who won one, and anybody else who wants one, you'll be able to order one very easily yourself, okay? Okay, the next kind of carrier here is, yes, somebody's asking, it was called the Sleepy Wrap before? Yes, it was called the Sleepy Wrap. Now it is called the Boba wrap, okay? They've become one family. They've always been one family, but their branding is new, and now it is all one and the same, so that there's no confusion of who the great people are behind the products. We have soft structured carriers, and that's when we're talking about the Boba carrier here, okay? So the Boba carriers are the soft structured carriers, okay? These carriers offer a lot more waist support. They have a lot of adjustments, like I was saying before. They help to support your toddler in a way that is more ergonomically correct for you, okay? There's extra clasps that link the shoulder straps together. So that's important to take. When you have more clasps, you have more, it takes more pressure off the shoulders, okay? These carriers sometimes offer infant inserts for carrying young babies, but they really are best suited for older babies and toddlers. I would say somewhere around 4 or 5 months old. 5 months old is probably a good time to start using your carrier, when your baby's legs are big enough to straddle you a little bit better and their heads are a little bit higher up. They have a lot of padding on the shoulders, so that's much more comfortable. The hip belt on this type of carrier can be worn for extended periods of time. And they also have lots of pockets and different little things, places to put your water bottles, places to put your keys. Now they have things that, a strap that you can actually attach the, they make a, like a carrier, like a diaper bag that can actually attach to it with a little attachment so that it doesn't fall off your shoulders. So smart. But these are really great carriers, and they're usually for the front or the back. And you can just spin it around and wear your baby on your back, okay? Love this carrier. The type of carriers that I'm going to recommend that you avoid are the kind of carriers where the baby is in a frontward position, okay? The front-facing position carriers can be really, really stressful on the baby and also on you. In most cases, they have no waist positioner, so no waistbands. That means that there's no place where the actual belt is taking the pressure of the baby. It's all hanging from your neck and shoulders. And the baby is hanging in a forward-facing position from their spine, okay? I think I have a picture here, and you can actually see, okay, a baby hanging here. Now, this is really a problem, okay? The front carriers, their legs are dangling, okay? It doesn't offer any support for your baby's spine. The baby's spine should have a C-shaped curve, which naturally occurs when they're facing you with their feet in more of a frog-like position. You can see that this baby is hanging straight down, okay? And that's not good for the baby. The forward-facing position, it forces all the weight of the baby on the hips and the crotch area, okay? This is not what you want to do with your baby. All that weight on the crotch, not good, okay? And it creates too much strain, like I said, on the mother's or dad's back and shoulders, okay? So you want to avoid that. One of the things that I wanted to say that I didn't say about the soft structured carrier like the Boba or other ones on the market like it is that see the difference how the child is actually sitting. Their butt is in a sitting position, a much more natural position, and the hips are flexed at a 90-degree angle. This is extremely important. This is what you're looking for. As their legs start to get longer, their legs need to be bent. What I love about this is that the back of the Boba carrier comes up higher, so it gives more support. The baby's not going to push back like this and kind of tilt the mom. But it's got a wider base, so it's really supporting the baby's legs all the way almost to the knees. And that's going to keep their legs in that 90-degree angle at the hips, okay? They've also done this genius addition that they had before, but this is the only carrier that has it, are these little stirrups. I don't know if you can see it. They're like little feet stirrups, okay?
And about the height.
The height of the
for a taller baby.
Ah, okay. You mean like if it's for a taller baby? Yeah,
no,
these.
How does it work with the taller baby?
Oh, for the stirrups?
Yeah.
Okay, so the baby's feet go right inside of here, and these little straps are adjustable. What this does is it bends your baby's knees into a 90-degree angle so they have something to rest their legs into. That means that their legs are not falling asleep, cutting off circulation, or allowing the legs to dangle, which is exactly what we didn't want to do. We wanted to keep the legs at a 90-degree angle. Those stirrups are adjustable, so even for a larger child, they can be brought down to put their feet into. So it's just a really great feature that the Boba it's unique to the Boba carrier, and that's one of the reasons why I really, really recommend it. Let's see. We got any more questions here? Let's do another question.
We love questions.
We love questions. We love questions. Let's see. Let's see. Somebody asked, does the Boba come up higher than the Ergo? Yes, it does. I think you're talking about, this was from Jennifer in Colorado. Yes, it comes up higher in the back. There's also a hood here that will come up over the baby, so if the baby falls asleep, their head's not bobbling all over the place, or if you're in the sun, to actually cover their heads. Let's see. Okay, and then the question from Zuli in North Carolina, she was asking, can wearing babies in a sling cause hip displacement? We covered that before, and it's actually the opposite. Remember, it's the opposite. Carrying babies in a sling, as long as it's the correct sling, where they're not hanging straight down, actually helps to develop the hips into the socket the correct way, okay? So there should be no issue with that. Okay, and what seems to be the most comfortable baby carrier? This is from Rebecca in Florida. Again, for an infant, I would definitely choose a wrap like the Boba wrap, okay? If you felt that fabric, it's super, super soft, and being able to be up against your body, definitely ideal. Okay, so let's talk about for a minute, when can you start using a sling, and when are they too old? I think we covered when they're too old, and that's kind of like whenever they feel like it, probably. But there's technically no weight restrictions. Boba, says there's no weight restrictions on the wrap. It's been tested to 45 pounds. It really comes down to what you can carry. It's ideal. It's ideal for the first year of life. Okay, so it's really for the first year of the wrap. I would say that you can use it as long as you and your baby are comfortable, but really ideal for the first year. The Boba carrier is made for babies up to 45 pounds, and those are the ones that you're going to use as you get into toddler size, okay? And neither of these carriers well, the Boba carrier is not designed for a premature baby, so you want to make sure that you're not putting your very small baby into one of the Boba carriers, okay? The wrap, depending on how you wrap it, it could be used for a very small baby. Ah, my goodness.
You rock, dude.
I rock, huh? What do you think?
What do you think?
Did you guys learn something? Did you guys learn about baby wearing tonight? Okay, I tried to give you as much information as I could. Oh, thank you, thank you. Yes, you know, you guys are so funny. Yes, I love you. I love you. I just, you know, I think that what's so important is just to understand that these are not just products, okay? There are things out there. We've got bouncy seats, and we've got swings, and we've got, you know, what do you call them, those little jumperoos, and all these different products in the market, and there's 10,000 products for babies, and believe me, I was just at the trade show in Kentucky, and you walk through a sea of baby products, but when we're talking about a baby carrier, we're talking about way more than a baby product, okay? This is a lifestyle decision. This is a parenting decision. This is way more than a product. This is a parenting decision to wear your baby close to you, to create that security, to create that development in your baby that we talked about that's so important, and to really make decisions that are for the best, you know, in the best interest of your child and for yourself. And if you've never used a carrier, if this is not your first baby and you've never done it before, I recommend that you start, that you try, that you give it a chance. It's really an amazing, amazing experience to just have your baby on you. You'll see how great they become at learning how to be worn. It's not only how you wear them, but they learn how to be worn themselves, and they get so comfortable in these carriers, and it really makes them happy. And another wonderful evening, more education, more things to learn about, more ways to love your children and do the very best for them as you possibly can. I love you all so much.